Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Mark Indelicato about Hacks, which is on HBO Max. We're talking about season 2. Welcome back to the show, man. It's so good to see you.
Great to see you as well. Haven't seen you in a minute.
I haven't seen you in a minute. I mean, first of all, With Love season 2 on Prime Video, renewed. Congratulations on that. That's so awesome.
Yes, we're very, very excited. We're very excited.
But now, Hacks is back. Damien is back. I mean, I loved season 1.
Thank you.
We're back now for season 2. I mean, can you believe it that we're finally back?
I can believe it. I'm just so happy that everyone now, like the audience, gets to actually see it. I mean, just kudos to the entire team that really turned a second season around in less than a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly extraordinary.
Yep.
Lucia had a whole baby. Paul and Lucia had a whole baby while doing this second season. And I mean, it's truly, Hack season 1 was a labor of love, but this second season was a labor of love in a way that I truly haven't experienced since Ugly Betty, I think,
I mean, season 1 kind of ends. I mean, I feel like people would be very upset if there wasn't a season 2.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I think that, when we, and I'm sure we've talked about this before, and I'm sure that everyone in the cast that you've spoken to has said this, is that when we were shooting the first season, it was we have something is really special about this.
Absolutely.
And I
100%.
think that when I say that it's the first time since Ugly Betty that I've felt this way, it was special not only because the content was so good, but it was special because everyone genuinely is giving 110%. We really, truly love each other. We really, truly all want everyone to succeed. And that's a top-down effect. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's behind the scenes and also in the cast, is that everyone wants everyone else to do well and to succeed. And I think that really shines through in when you're watching it, because even when, if we're acting as if Damien and Ava probably don't get along or whatever, but even when you're playing those scenes, the fact that Hannah and I are such close friends, that lends itself to a sense of freedom that you feel and a comfortability to make the scene, to play the scene in, to know that your scene partner is supporting you. Yeah. Is basically what I'm getting.
100%. There's a lot to love about the show, but I actually know, because I really love Hacks, but I feel like I know why I like it. And I don't know if it's kind of the typical kind of reason, to be honest with you. I'm very intrigued with the blurriness about a lot of the characters, if you know what I kind of mean by that. I don't think anyone is a bad person. I think a lot of characters make not the best decisions that can kind of label them. Do you know what I mean? There's blurry characters.
But it's, and that's a testament to the writing too, because it's any character that, you're watching on television or in film that is just inherent, wholly universally likable and makes no mistake. No one can relate to that. No human person living their lives in the real world can relate to a totally virtuous person. Yes. And I think that that's a testament to the writing that, yes, all of these characters, I mean, the show is called Hacks. So I think that, in one way or another, every single character is a hack in a certain kind of context, right? And so I think that it's a testament to the writing and to the ways in which, Paul, Lucia, Jen, and the entire kind of team are invested in making these characters human.
Yeah, I think the blurriness in the human, absolutely, yeah.
And because that's the human experience, right? I mean, we all say cringeworthy things. We've all done things that we're not proud of. We've all done things in the moment out of rage or anxiety or passion or whatever, that we end up maybe regretting.
Yep.
And I think that that's the human experience. So I think that you hit the nail on the head, where it's like, it's not whether or not these characters are likable or unlikable. And I think that in between, that gray area, is basically like really tapping into the human experience in a really big way.
100%. I find it pretty cool because I feel like, you look at Hacks, you look at Flight Attendant. I mean, these are just two powerful shows that came out on HBO Max. And I feel like the Flight Attendant a little bit more than Hacks in terms I feel like they're both genre bending shows in a little bit, because obviously it's like Hacks has the comedy is more evident in Hacks, but the drama is right there as well. What do you think about genre bending content these days, Mark?
I mean, I came up on a show that was genre bending before genre bending was really as widespread as it is now. I mean, Ugly Betty was, it was hard sometimes for people to place what genre it was actually in.
It's true. What is it?
What is it? And I think that like Ugly Betty was one of the first shows where dramedy was popularized as a term, as a genre. And I think that, again, I think that it really just goes back to what we were just talking about like the human experience. Not everything, it can't just be joke, because then you don't really get to know who these characters are, like you don't, and I think that like that formula works in certain contexts, but I think that like what the writers and what we all are trying to do on Hacks is like really show the human experience within this world, within Deborah Vance's and Ava Daniels's world. And I think that it wouldn't make sense if they weren't flawed people. All of the, like the narrative structure wouldn't make sense of what they go through if they were completely virtuous people, that it's just like joke, like then the whole story would be thrown
and
off.
I find it interesting because you're also on With Love on Prime Video, which just recently got renewed for season 2. And, that one has a very, that's a very heartwarming show. That show, literally, I spoke to all of you at the junket. That's like a warm hug. It's just the biggest warm hug ever. But there are kind of those moments where, like you said, like the human aspect of it, right? Certain characters say things that they're not trying to be a bad person, but there's kind of bad decisions a little bit. You see that with that show as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I think that, my character in With Love as well, I mean, is constantly putting his foot in his mouth. I mean, I think that, I would say, if I had to say, I think that Jorge is the least sympathetic person, like is the least sympathetic character on With Love. You know what I mean?
Well, you kind of understand. He wants it to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. and he's also, and that's the thing, I think that that's what's so great. I mean, one thing that I really, really love about these two projects, about working on Hacks and then going and working on With Love. And now I'm doing the second year of kind of coming off of Hacks and going into With Love, is that, as a creative and as an actor, you always want to put yourself in situations like that you're playing different characters in different worlds, in different contexts. And I think that, I can't say that one is better than the other, because I love both projects and both characters so much, but I love the idea and the actual act of like going from one project to the other, and they're completely separate worlds. I think that With Love's function is to make people feel good and have hope, whereas I think Hacks is more of a realistic examination of the human experience.
That is like the best way to explain both of them. Well,
I mean, the world is in a crazy place. I think that With Love has an extremely important function in our media consumption and like what people are watching. I think that, we can't constantly be confronted with the, or only confronted with the, how disgusting human beings can be, right? Like we need to supplement that with some joy. And so I think that is With Love's function, is to be joyful. And, obviously Gloria Caldron-Kellett, who created the show, this really was a passion project that she had that came about during the beginning of the pandemic. not being able to see her family, who she's very close to. And that was the impetus for like creating With
She
Love.
got a powerhouse cast for that too.
Yeah. I mean, well, she's a powerhouse in and of herself. I mean, if Gloria asks you to do something, you do it.
But I have to say, like I said, I spoke to you and the whole cast of the junket. Those junkets are so stressful sometimes, and like
there's just a lot, you know.
And it's like
it's
5
a
minutes
lot.
and like this and that, and like this is like
It's you have 5 minutes, go. And I like to talk, so like I'll just
you and like when you're paired, it's different, right?
I know. Poor Laura is like, okay, we're done. I'm like, wait, but one more thing. Laura, my beautiful publicist.
It's one of those things as well with the two main characters in Hacks, because I do want to get into, before we end this interview, I want to get into Damien, what he's up to, obviously spoiler free for season 2, but the two main characters in Hacks, I feel like there's a little bit, and I'm wondering if you can answer this from someone who works on the show, but someone who also just enjoys TV, like the viewer perspective as well. Yeah. Because there's a push and pull of like who you're rooting for in Hacks, if you know what I mean.
Right. But I mean, but the thing is that I think that, you know, one of the biggest kind of like mind fucks that I think that Hacks presents to the viewer is that, you know, you're already kind of getting this semblance of things that are not normally done, right?
Okay,
like a woman of a certain age is leading the show, which, you know, I would say 10 years ago, you would not be able to sell that show. Yeah. That, you know, a woman over the age of 60 is leading a show, you know, it is, you know, the main character of a show. And I think that is initially a mind fuck for the audience, and also just a testament of how far we've come, right, as a culture. But I think that having the Ava character and this push and pull between them, you know, we're talking about very, very topical, palpable generational gap issues and the ways in which we communicate with one another. So it's like when Ava is confronting Deborah with certain things, right, about, namely last season, I don't want to give too much away about this season, but last season about her bisexuality, right? But then Deborah is talking to Ava about work ethic and how hard Deborah has had to work to pave the way for, you know, the Avas of the world generations later, right? And I think that, so that push and pull, they're both right. And I think that also this is a conversation that we need to have about, like, when two women are leading a show, that we feel the need as an audience to pick one of these women. Because,
I feel like it makes the show unique too in a lot of ways too.
Sure, but you watch television shows and you watch films that are led by a cast of men, and you're you know, the narrative is that you're relating to every single one of them, and no one is the outlier. Whereas like something that is led and spearheaded by women, you're kind of like, well, I have to pick which one I am or which one I'm rooting for, because I can't be rooting for both women. That's crazy, you know? And I think that we've been conditioned as such. I don't necessarily think that it's like abject bigotry or misogyny. You know, I think that we've been conditioned as an audience to be like, there's the woman. Yep. You know, like you have two gay characters. It's like, we have to pick one because there's only room for the one gay guy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. No, that's so right. No, I'm glad you see where I'm coming from, where the push and pull, because I feel like, no, that's good.
And there is, I mean, also like there is just like outside of like that kind of like sociological like examination, it's like there is a push and pull. Like they are friends one day and they are not the next.
Also, I'm talking also from the audience perspective, Mark, where sometimes I'm like, oh, Eva's driving me nuts. I don't like her. And I'm like, oh, I like her this episode.
And that's great. And I think that's like, and I think that in feeling, those feelings are great to hear, because I feel like that means the show is doing its job. Yeah. And the writing is.
Yeah, the writing is the writing in this is so good. Like it's amazing. Like I don't know what else more there to say. Like it's such clever storylines, dude. The finale of season 1 was so good.
It's so good. You know, like, and I said this to you, I think the last time that we spoke, is that like, you know, I would be watching this show. I would be watching Hacks even if I wasn't in it. Like I am a fan. I am a fan of the show. Yeah.
You do a lot of interviews, and I want to know the percentage. I mean, I want to know if you know where I'm going with this. I mean, the internet, you know, because of TikTok and everything, there's no shelf life for a lot of content. How many times does Floss get brought up in interviews?
A lot.
But it's amazing.
And
Can I tell you though that I love it? It's the greatest thing ever. Like, I'm a fan. Okay, I'm sorry. No, Smith and
it's
Zach
so
and Cody is one of
funny.
those great shows, and
It's very, very funny. I mean, it's generational. You know what I mean? I think that it was my generation, and I've done a lot of work in my life, but Floss is, it sticks, you know. And it's so funny because Dylan and Cole Sprouse are two of my closest friends for like 15 years now.
Amazing.
And we've been friends since we shot the show, and we went to college together, and it's just, you know, they're two of my best friends, and they still will throw things, like we'll still send each other, you know, like DM each other like videos or like embarrassing photos from that time.
Man,
you know what I mean?
There were so many things on TikTok that resurfaced. Like, I remember they had the banter between them. Like, I remember there's one. I'm not gonna lie to you. I sometimes go, you know, Disney Plus and everything. You go back and you watch sometimes. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay,
it's crazy.
There's an episode where they're talking.
It's canonized.
There's an episode where they're talking and they're arguing about something, and then Zach's kind of like, "It's gonna be like this way. We're gonna do it this way and everything." And then Cody's like, or," and then Zach's like, "What are you, a seal?"
I mean, to be honest, I did the show, and I didn't know what I was going to end up doing on the show. They like wrote me a part. They wrote that part for me for the show because we were doing Ugly Betty, and I was like, I was 11 at the time, turning 12. And I was like watching The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to be on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody." Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that it was going to be canonized as like such an iconic moment in the whole series.
So good. The whole scene, guy like because your character is trying to score points with the choreographer. Yeah. He's like, "That's my point." Yeah. Like that whole sequence is the best.
I know. And you know, it was honestly, I was so starstruck. It was so wild. I mean, I grew up with those boys and High School Musical and all of that stuff, and like watching them. And so then to be there, like around them and the girls, and like, you know, and just be on the set and everything. It was wild.
It shows up on TikTok. You know, like it literally shows up on For You pages. I'm just saying.
It's very much like, it's very much like a TikTok thing now, which is hilarious. And we, you know, I mean, the greatest thing, even though I feel quite embarrassed by it now, I think the greatest thing is that like I met two of my best friends. I mean, we're like brothers.
It's so good. It's amazing. It's iconic.
It's so silly. It's so silly.
But it's a kid show too, right? At the end of the day, like, do people forget that?
For sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I feel like people sometimes forget.
Like it's for children.
It's for children. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the Disney Channel. Yeah, it's for children.
But before we wrap up, you do such a good job with Damien. Without any spoilers, getting back to Hacks, what's Damien up to in season 2 that you can tell us? Without super big spoilers.
We really pick up with Damien where we left off. I mean, we pick up season 2. The first 2 episodes are out right now on HBO Max, and so we pick up exactly where we left off. So it's right after the last show that Deborah's done. And it's not a secret now that, you know, we go on tour. And Damien goes on tour with Deborah. So, you know, when I think about, you know, Damien's like function in this narrative, you know, I think that last season there was a lot of like anxiety that I had about like not being like in it enough. And and it was, you know, and in terms of like, ooh, like, do I have a function in this show? Right. And I mean, Paul, Lucci, and Jen can attest to the fact of like how many times I've like called them crying and being like, if you want to fire me, just like do it. You know, and like just like really, really wild actor shit. You know what I mean? But you know, upon reflection, it's like Damien has a very, very important function in Deborah's life, you know, in the larger narrative of the show. And I think that you get to like see that a bit more this season, obviously in a very comedic way. I'm doing, like, Damien is doing a lot more physical comedy this season. There's a lot of like kind of falling and running, and you know, there's a lot of gags and stuff that happen that I was super excited, nervous, albeit, but like very excited to like do, you know, because of course, you know, when Paul and Lucci and Jen tell you to do something or that something's funny, it's like I'm doubling down, like I'm going for it. And so there's a scene that I think that you guys will be able to see in the 3rd episode that's coming out on Wednesday, that like there's like a scene where like I kind of fall down, but I'm doing something, I don't want to give too much away, but it wasn't written in the script that he falls down, and I fell down, and then Lucia came up to me and was like, it really sucks that you fell because it's really funny and you're gonna have to do it every other time after this. So it's like, again, like this kind of support.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like this kind of support that, you know, you feel where it's like everyone involved wants everyone to be as funny and as real and as supported as possible. And I think that, like, you know, you see a lot more of Damien this season, and I think that it really solidifies kind of his function in like Team Deborah. And I think that, you know, a lot of the focus of this season regarding Deborah is about the team that is around her, you know, especially when you're on the road. So it's really exciting. And like, I was just, you know, so jazzed to be asked back. And, you know, we're all just like such good fucking friends. Like, it's so cool.
It's amazing.
You know, like you go to work every day and spend hours and hours and hours with these people. And it's really, really cool to like.
Keep in mind though that I think people don't realize this, because I have a lot of friends that work on shows too. The work is like the auditioning and getting the gigs and everything too, right? Getting the set, you know what I mean? It's a bit deceiving that way, you know what I mean? Like the hard work is like getting the role.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, like, you know, I think the whole kind of diva kind of like positionality or like that kind of identity is like only reserved for people that like don't have to like work hard to get a job. You know, I think that, like, I've said this before, but like right before I booked Hacks, like I was ready to quit like the whole thing, you know, I was ready to quit the industry because I had left and gone to college. I had come back. I, you know, wasn't getting hired.
Yep.
And, you know, that went on for like 2.5
Did you
3
book
years.
With Love? When did With Love come into play? Like, was that before
With Love,
Hacks?
No, With Love was after Hacks.
Okay.
So we wrapped season 1 of Hacks, and then I was testing and talking to Gloria right in the middle of wrapping Hacks, or like right after we had wrapped Hacks.
Yeah,
so I like went from Hacks right into With Love. Yeah.
So it's absolutely, both great shows. Mark, this was great catching up with you. Thank you so much for
Great
coming
to
back
catch
on
up with you, my friend.
man. Yeah,
of course, no doubt.
HBO Max for Hacks. They can follow you on Instagram and Twitter, eh, to keep update with everything.
At Mark Indelicato, or on Twitter it's at Fark Indelicato.
And they can check out Floss on TikTok if it shows up on your For You page.
And also check out Floss on TikTok.
This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, it's Mark Indelicato, who plays Damien in Hacks Season 2 on HBO Max, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.